If you checked your bank account this morning and saw a Social Security payment arrive earlier than you expected, or maybe you're still waiting and wondering if something is wrong, today's update matters directly to you. Because today, a new Friday deposit wave is hitting accounts across the country. And for millions of retirees, disabled Americans, veterans, and SSI recipients, understanding why this payment is arriving today and whether you're supposed to receive one can mean the difference between relief and unnecessary worry. This isn't a random payment. It isn't a bonus, and it isn't a mistake. What's happening today follows the official federal payment calendar used by the Social Security Administration. And once you understand how that calendar works, you'll know exactly whether today is your payment day, someone else's payment day, or simply part of the normal cycle that repeats every month. And I want you to stay with me because in a few minutes, I'm going to explain one detail that many beneficiaries don't realize, a small scheduling rule that determines which exact day your money shows up. That one detail alone clears up most payment confusion. For many Americans living on fixed incomes, timing is everything. Rent is due on a certain date. Medication refills happen on a certain date. Utility bills, groceries, transportation, these don't wait. So when a payment arrives earlier, later, or on an unexpected day, it can cause stress fast. And if you depend on Social Security, SSI, SSDI, or VA benefits, you already know how closely each payment matters to your monthly plan. Even a one-day shift can change how you budget. That's why updates like today's are important, not because something dramatic changed, but because understanding the system protects you from misinformation, panic rumors, or false alerts that spread quickly online. You deserve clarity, not confusion. According to the official payment schedule published by the Social Security Administration, benefit payments are issued on specific dates based primarily on two factors: the type of benefit you receive and your birth date. Benefit type and birth date are the two core drivers for most Social Security payment dates, and the agency explains this directly in its published schedule. Here is the simple breakdown that applies in February 2026 and every month unless the calendar forces an adjustment. SSI payments are usually sent on the first of each month. Social Security retirement and disability payments follow a Wednesday schedule. The agency schedule lists it in a simple chart. Second Wednesday for birth dates 1st to 10th, third Wednesday for birth dates 11th to 20th, and fourth Wednesday for birth dates 21st to 31st. Now tie that to this month. In the SSA schedule, the February 2026 calendar shows the Wednesdays on February 11th, 2026, February 18th, 2026, and February 25th, 2026. Those are the core Social Security Wednesday payment dates in February 2026 for people who are paid based on the birth date system. So where does Friday come in? Today is Friday, February 20th, 2026, and the reason some people see deposits today is not because the official schedule has a Friday payment date for Social Security retirement or SSDI. The reason is that deposit timing can move around the official date due to verified, repeatable reasons. Friday deposit waves typically happen for one of three verified reasons. First, early release by banks. Many banks and credit unions release federal payments early once they receive the electronic notice from the Treasury. That means if your official payment date is next week, your bank might still credit your account today. This is a bank posting practice, not a change to the federal payment schedule, and it explains why some people see deposits a day or two ahead of their assigned Wednesday. The official payment date can be February 25th, 2026, but the bank can credit it on February 20th, 2026 if it posts early. Second, federal calendar adjustments. If an official payment date falls on a weekend or federal holiday, the payment is legally required to arrive on the previous business day. When that happens, Friday often becomes the adjusted payment day. This is one of the standard rules used across federal benefit programs. When a scheduled payment date is not a business day, the payment moves to the closest prior business day. Third, SSI timing shifts. SSI recipients sometimes receive payments on the last business day of the prior month if the first falls on a weekend. This also creates Friday waves in months where the first is a Saturday or Sunday. Independent guidance sources describing SSI timing state that SSI is almost always delivered on the first day of each month unless that date falls on a weekend or federal holiday. And in that case, it is delivered the closest preceding business day. If you receive money today and your official date is close, it's likely not a surprise payment. It's simply timing. Now, let's apply that logic to February 20th, 2026 specifically, because your question is, who gets checks today? Start with the official Wednesday system. If you are a Social Security retirement or SSDI beneficiary whose birth date falls between the 21st and 31st, your official date for this month is the fourth Wednesday, which in February 2026 is February 25th, 2026. If your bank posts federal payments early, you are one of the groups most likely to see a deposit before that official date, potentially as early as today, Friday, February 20th, 2026, because today is within a few days of February 25th. If your birth date falls between the 11th and 20th, your official date is the third Wednesday, which in February 2026 is February 18th, 2026. Some banks post early, and some post later in the day, so a person in this group might have seen the deposit already on February 18th, might see it later the same day, or could see it after depending on bank processing. That variation is real and has a simple explanation that you'll hear in the key scheduling rules section. If your birth date falls between the 1st and 10th, your official date is the second Wednesday, which in February 2026 is February 11th, 2026. That group's payment date is already passed, so today's Friday deposits are less likely to be connected to that birth date batch unless there was a bank posting delay or a correction issue, which is not the default explanation. Now add the important schedule exception that many people forget. The SSA schedule states, if you received Social Security before May 1997 or if receiving both Social Security and SSI, Social Security is paid on the 3rd and SSI on the 1st. That means some beneficiaries do not follow the birth date Wednesday rule at all, and comparing your deposit date to another person's deposit date can create confusion if you are not on the same schedule group. Now, let's separate something clearly because this is where most confusion happens. You may see a deposit today if your official payment date is within a few days, if your bank releases funds early, if your scheduled date falls on a weekend or holiday, or if you receive SSI and the calendar shifted your payment forward. You likely will not see a deposit today if your scheduled Wednesday hasn't arrived yet. If your payment date is later in the month, if your bank holds funds until the exact federal date, or if your benefits are still being processed or verified. And this is important. That doesn't mean something is wrong. One of the biggest misunderstandings people have is assuming that if someone else got paid today, they should have too. But Social Security doesn't pay everyone at once. Payments are staggered intentionally to keep the system stable and organized. So if your neighbor got a deposit this morning and you didn't, that alone does not indicate a problem. You might hear the phrase payment cycle. All that means is the repeating monthly schedule the government uses to send benefits. Think of it like a calendar loop. Every month follows the same pattern unless a holiday or weekend forces an adjustment. Nothing random, nothing secret, just a structured system. Let me share a realistic situation that reflects what many people experience. Imagine Maria, age 72. She receives Social Security retirement benefits and usually gets paid on the third Wednesday. This month, that Wednesday falls close to a holiday weekend. Her bank receives the payment file early and releases it Friday morning instead. Maria checks her account and sees the deposit. She thinks, did they increase my benefits? Was this a bonus? Did I get paid twice? None of those are true. It's simply her bank processing the payment early. Now, imagine Robert, a veteran receiving disability benefits. His payment date isn't until next Wednesday. He hears people online talking about Friday deposits and worries something went wrong with his account, but his payment is perfectly on schedule, just not due yet. These two situations happen every month across the country. Some people ask why the government doesn't just send everyone's payments on the same day. The answer is practical. Sending tens of millions of payments simultaneously would strain banking systems, increase processing delays, and create a higher risk of technical issues. By staggering payments across different dates, the Treasury and Social Security Administration can reduce system overload, prevent banking congestion, improve accuracy, and allow time to fix issues if they arise. In other words, the system is designed for stability, not speed. Here's how your specific date is locked in. When you first begin receiving benefits, the Social Security Administration assigns your payment schedule automatically based on your birth date or or benefit type. Once assigned, your payment day almost always stays the same every month. The only times it changes are federal holidays, weekends, rare system adjustments, or payment corrections. Otherwise, your date remains predictable. This is why experts always recommend marking your payment day on a calendar. Once you know your exact schedule, it becomes much easier to recognize whether a deposit is early, on time, or late. There's one small rule that many beneficiaries don't realize. The government sends the payment on time, but the bank decides when you see it. That's right. The Social Security Administration and Treasury release funds according to schedule. But once the payment reaches your bank, your financial institution controls when it appears in your account. Some banks show it immediately. Some wait until midnight. Some wait until the official date. So, two people with identical benefits and identical payment dates can still receive money at different times simply because they use different banks. This is one of the biggest hidden reasons deposit timing varies. If you're expecting a payment and wondering whether today applies to you, here's what experts recommend. First, check your official payment schedule, not social media posts or rumors. Second, verify your birth date payment group. Third, confirm whether your bank releases deposits early. Fourth, allow at least 3 mailing or processing days before reporting a missing payment. This is not a casual suggestion. It is printed directly in the SSA schedule. The publication states, if you don't receive your payment on the expected date, please allow 3 additional mailing days before contacting Social Security. That sentence is an official rule beneficiaries can use when deciding whether to report a missing payment. Most payment concerns resolve themselves within that window. Calling Social Security immediately the same morning rarely speeds anything up because their system will show the payment as sent even if your bank hasn't posted it yet. If you're waiting today and haven't seen anything yet, take a breath. It doesn't automatically mean something is wrong. The federal payment system processes millions of transactions in scheduled waves, not all at once. Many beneficiaries see deposits later in the day, overnight, or on their assigned date. You're not alone in wondering, and you're not forgotten in the system. And stay with me because next I'm going to explain the exact signs of a real payment problem versus a normal delay. What to do if your deposit truly doesn't arrive. The most common mistake beneficiaries make that can actually delay payments, and one warning about scams that specifically target people on benefit days. Those details can protect your income, and many people don't learn them until after they've had an issue. Before we move forward, let's pick up exactly where we left off. Because this next part may be the most important section of this entire update, especially if you're still waiting for a payment or feeling worried that something might be wrong. One of the most common fears beneficiaries have is this quiet question that runs through their mind. My payment didn't show up this morning. Does that mean there's a problem? Most of the time, the honest answer is no. A normal delay usually means your official payment date hasn't arrived yet. Your bank hasn't posted the deposit, the payment is still processing, or it's simply still within the standard delivery window. These things happen regularly, and they're considered routine within the federal payment system. A possible real issue, on the other hand, usually means your payment is more than 3 business days late. Your banking information recently changed, you moved and didn't update your address, your benefits are under review, or there's a verification requirement still pending. That 3-day window is extremely important. The Social Security Administration itself advises beneficiaries to allow 3 mailing days before reporting a missing payment because most deposits show up within that time frame, even if they appear late at first. The official schedule includes the instruction, if you don't receive your payment on the expected date, please allow 3 additional mailing days before contacting Social Security. In other words, what feels late often isn't actually late at all. There's also one mistake that causes more payment delays than almost anything else, and many people don't realize it until it happens to them. That mistake is not updating your information. If your bank account changes, if your address changes, or if your eligibility details change and the system doesn't have your updated records, payments can pause automatically. This isn't a punishment. It's a protection measure built into the system. The government would rather pause a payment briefly than risk sending it to the wrong account or address. So, anytime you switch banks, move homes, or update direct deposit details, it's very important to notify Social Security as soon as possible. Even a small delay in updating your information can interrupt the payment cycle. Here's another detail that surprises many people when they first learn it. Processing time is different from payment date. The payment date is when the government releases the money. Processing time is how long your bank takes to post it. That means your payment can technically be on time even if you don't see it yet. This happens more often with smaller banks, credit unions, paper checks, or newly changed accounts. Timing differences alone do not automatically mean something is wrong. Let's picture a situation that reflects what thousands of people experience every month. James is 68 and receives retirement benefits. His payment normally arrives the second Wednesday of each month. This month, he hears online that people got paid Friday. He checks his account and sees nothing. Immediately, he feels anxious. He calls his bank and they say, no deposit yet. He calls Social Security and they tell him his payment is scheduled for next week. He spends the whole day worried, thinking something went wrong. Then Wednesday morning arrives and his payment shows up exactly on schedule. What caused his stress wasn't the system. It was confusion mixed with incomplete information. And that's exactly why understanding how payment ways work can protect your peace of mind. You may have noticed that on benefit days, social media fills with posts saying things like, everyone is getting paid today, or checks just dropped, or surprise deposit. The problem is that these statements are usually true for some people, but not for everyone. When one group receives a payment, it can look like a nationwide event, but in reality, it's just one scheduled batch out of several. Social Security doesn't send all payments at once. They're released in waves throughout the month. So, when you see someone celebrating a deposit, it doesn't automatically apply to your schedule. Now, there's something else we need to talk about, and this part is very important, especially on payment days. Scammers know that deposit days create excitement, urgency, and sometimes worry. And unfortunately, they use that to their advantage. Some of the most common scam messages reported to federal agencies include texts or emails saying things like, your payment is delayed, click here, verify your account to release funds, urgent SSA notice, or deposit error detected. These messages are almost always fake. The Social Security Administration does not text or email asking for personal information or verification links. Official communication usually comes through mailed letters or your secure online account. So, if you ever receive a message asking you to confirm your Social Security number, bank account, or password, do not respond. Delete it immediately. Protecting your information protects your benefits. Now, let's talk about something that often confuses people in a different way. Early deposits. Earlier payments can feel like a surprise blessing, but there's usually a simple explanation. Many banks participate in early deposit programs. Once they receive notice that a federal payment is on its way, they may choose to credit your account before the official payment date. Not all banks do this. It's optional. So, if someone tells you they got paid early, it doesn't mean Social Security changed anything. It simply means their bank released the funds faster. This same structure is also relevant to VA disability compensation timing. Military.com explains the adjustment rule in plain terms. When the first day of that month falls on a non-business day or a holiday, VA benefits will be paid on the last business day of the preceding month. That rule is why some VA-related deposits appear on a Friday in certain months, and why bank early posting can also move the visible deposit earlier than the official date. The federal payment structure itself is designed around three main goals: reliability, security, and efficiency. By spreading payments across multiple dates, the system reduces risk, prevents overload, and keeps transactions flowing smoothly. It may not always feel fast, but it is built to be dependable. If your scheduled date passes and you still don't see your payment after 3 business days, here are the steps experts recommend. First, check with your bank to see whether a deposit is pending. Second, log into your official Social Security account to verify your payment status. Third, confirm that your banking and mailing details are correct. And fourth, contact Social Security directly if the payment still hasn't arrived. Most issues can be resolved quickly once they're identified. Let's pause for a moment and acknowledge something real. Waiting for a payment when you depend on it isn't just inconvenient. It can feel stressful, even frightening, especially when bills are coming due or prescriptions need refilling. If you've ever felt that knot in your stomach while checking your account again and again, you are far from alone. Millions of Americans share that same feeling every single month. But understanding how the system works removes a lot of that fear. Knowledge replaces uncertainty, and you deserve that sense of reassurance. Let's quickly go over the key points so they stay clear in your mind. Friday deposit waves usually happen because of bank timing or calendar adjustments. Not everyone receives payments on the same day. Your birth date and benefit type determine your schedule. Banks control when deposits appear in your account. Waiting up to 3 business days is normal. Early deposits don't mean bonus payments. And messages asking for personal information are almost always scams. Now bring it back to the direct question for Friday, February 20th, 2026. If you are expecting a Social Security retirement or SSDI payment based on your birth date, and your official date is Wednesday, February 25th, 2026, you are in the group most likely to see a deposit today if your bank posts federal payments early. If your official date was Wednesday, February 18th, 2026, a deposit today can also happen depending on posting time and bank processing, but that is not the default official date for that group. If your official payment date is later than February 25th, 2026, then a deposit today is less likely to match your normal schedule under the SSA calendar. If you receive SSI, remember that SSI is usually sent on the 1st, and it moves to the prior business day when the 1st is not a business day. That rule can create Friday deposits in some months, but the presence of a Friday deposit wave does not mean SSI always pays on Fridays. And if you received Social Security before May 1997 or you received both Social Security and SSI, your Social Security date is tied to the 3rd, and your SSI is tied to the 1st, which is a different schedule structure than the birth date Wednesday system. Did your payment arrive today, later, or are you still waiting for your scheduled date? Your experience could reassure someone else who's wondering the same thing.